I'm afraid Kemi Badenoch's performance last night, stentorian and determined though it was not quite sufficient to erase all suspicion that she is that she might have misconstrued events, um, and indeed she talks about evidence. There is no evidence. Well, you know, frankly, I've spent a good deal of time in the last few years talking to people who are NHS whistleblowers, and they talk often about evidence disappearing. They have a copy of the evidence, but the evidence disappears from the legal bundle, or is or is disregarded, or the judge says, oh, you mustn't consider this, and it's this is quite shocking. It's quite shocking, particularly when we consider the charges that we are making, rightly, against the Russian regime for the way the Russian regime distorts reality and distorts truth and distorts justice in the pursuit of its favoured aim, which is to silence dissent. Dissent is a good thing, and it must be treated respectfully. And I find it very strange. The more I think about Kemi Badenoch's performance at the dispatch box last night, the more I think it is odd. There she is, accusing this man of bullying, a charge which was levelled against Priti Patel, who remained in post, a charge which was levelled against Dominic Raab, who remained in post for months while an investigation took place. Why should they have the benefit of an investigation and Henry Staunton be dismissed over the telephone, and even then be dismissed after he'd heard about his dismissal on Sky TV? And again, she was asked whether or not she apologised to Staunton, and she said she disapproved of the outing of the dismissal on Sky TV, but she didn't say she apologised. Anything but. And it's this sort of verbal prestidigitation which doesn't quite work. And in the end, I think it will emerge that Staunton was not entirely duplicitous. I don't particularly want to support Staunton because he's part of the organisation that has made so many people miserable. He could have done some good, and he didn't. But equally, the government could have done some good, and it hasn't. And it's now standing by. It's now preening itself, suggesting it's done something, when clearly, if it's done enough, then the postmasters and the postmistresses would be happy. They're not. Now, today, MPs investigating the Horizon scandal want to see the note that Henry Staunton says that he's got. And I think that's very interesting. Particularly the fact that she claims, Kemi Badenoch claims, that he was under investigation for bullying when she sacked him. And Staunton said that he'd kept a record of the alleged comment from a senior civil servant asking him to stall compensation payments to Horizon victims. And a spokesperson for him has said he recorded it at the time in a file note which he emailed to himself and to colleagues, and which is therefore traceable on the post office server. And Liam Brine, the chairman of the Parliament's Business and Trade Committee, has invited him to appear before its members and said it would and said it would now be going a step further. Today we'll be sending for the papers that we need to try and get to the truth. Crucially, we'll be sending for that file note that Mr. Staunton says that he made, that sets out the go-slow order that he says he received from senior civil servants in the department, in which the Secretary of State professed no knowledge yesterday, of which the Secretary of State professed no knowledge yesterday. I'm afraid that there is talk in Westminster about whether the department has gone slow in order to put the financial liabilities on the other side of the election, and I very much hope that's not true. But we have got to get to the bottom of it. The Department for Business and Trade does have a budget that is under strain, so there is potentially an incentive. Who benefits? The Department of Business and Trade in going slow. And I think this is a fascinating story, and Paul Marshall, who's a barrister who represents some of the post office operators, said that on the face of it, it discloses a conspiracy by the post office to pervert the course of justice. And I'm not convinced. I posted as much of the parliamentary exchange yesterday as I could. I'm not convinced that what Kemi Badenoch is saying is as clear as it appears to be. There are very strange expressions that she uses which suggest she's trying to cover up something, or maybe she literally doesn't know. But I'm not as convinced as I should be that Henry Staunton is not telling the truth. And as I say, I have no reason at all to be defending Henry Staunton, who is part of the corruption of the post office, not part of the solution.